we decided to look for effective schools that could be models of excellence. We wanted to find schools that do exceptionally well in very challenging circumstances, such as dire poverty, gangster violence, widespread drug abuse, high rate of illiteracy, lack of basic services including water and electricity, broken homes, and high incidence of teenage pregnancy. Why do these schools do well when every other school in the same environment underperforms? In locating the factors that make these schools not only survive but excel, we thought we might find the seeds of hope for renewal and change in all our disadvantaged schools. That is an extract from this book by Jansen and Blank. I think it was released in 2014. Oh no, sorry. Let me try and find when was it published. Yeah, 2014, the first edition. It's actually an interesting read, very quick to get through. In the book, you will find facts about education. You'll find consequences that we see when we don't fix schools in South Africa, 8 mistakes that schools keep on making, 7 lessons from good practices in schools, 10 key strategies from schools that actually work, and my favorite, you'll find some videos from the schools that work to actually see what is it that they do to make their schools be where they are. And you also find a template to use in transformative workshops when you try to put this theory into practice. Okay, this is the latest book that I've finished. Currently, I'm reading another book on apartheid but I want to speak about this quickly. Okay, I'm sure everyone knows who Jansen is. I'm not going to tell much on that. And Molly is a videographer who helped Jansen document what he was trying to explore as an academic. And I think for me, what stood out in this book, sorry, good morning, everyone, or good day. I'm so sorry, I was excited to do this. For me, it was their conceptualization of trying to think about theory, or at least practice and theory. So they, as the extract suggests, they looked at schools that were performing well, and they wanted to theorize their practice into a blueprint for other schools to implement and hopefully get same, if not similar results, which we know doesn't always work out well. But I think it's a very ambitious exploration, which is also necessary because it does produce some very valuable lessons in it. So that is the first part that I found very interesting, but just by embarking on the journey to theorize practice and draw wisdom from that for the rest of the country was something that was very valuable in this book. The second thing, and that kind of like stems from this, is the value of the wisdom of practice. And I think that is what Jansen and Molly wanted to pinpoint at, to say, there are these good practices. What wisdom can we draw from that and try to relate to people in multimedia forms, because they've got video, they've got templates for people to try and implement this manual to improve the state of their education or their schooling system. And I think another aspect of this book that is very, very important is the relationship between talk and action. So most of the figures who were featured in this book, who are from across the country, by figures I mean teachers, but mostly principals, are people who did not only talk the talk, but they walked it. So, for example, you have a principal who would show up at school at 5 a.m. Some of them would spend time on weekends teaching and ensuring that they are the primary figures of the vision that they've put forward to their staff. And I think once people are able to see it in you, then it's easy for them to follow suit in what you're trying to establish in any education or ecosystem or company or establishment, to say the least. And then one other aspect that really, really resonated with me in the book was the one of trying to have a balance between the head and the heart, so what this basically means is that it's important for teaching staff who are trying to work together, especially in a schooling system, to not only have a balanced head but also have a balanced heart as well. So because if your cognitive ability is not in line with how you are emotionally, uh, physiologically as well, then there's going to be a mismatch, and that will definitely spill out into how you show up for the learners in the classroom and at school generally. And then, as I've said, the head and the heart and the cognitive, emotional, and physical balance kind of like bundles up together. And one aspect, and I didn't realize it until it was made explicit in the book, was the the title of the book, or the subtitle of the book, which read "Lessons from Schools That Work." The authors tried to bring an aspect or an understanding into why they actually went with that title. Schools That Work signifies two things. It signifies labor, because work is not something that is static. Work is something that is, practical. So there's this aspect of like hard labor, but then also there's the aspect of functionality, right? And I didn't realize that because I just read it as a title until it was made explicit in the book. So schools that work speaks to two things. There's the labor, the input that the schools put in, or the community puts in, and the functionality, it being able to run as a machine and continue to improve and progress and produce the required result. And then when they try to explain the book for whoever might be interested, as I wrap it up, is they pose the book as a manual. And I think it's quite important that they do that, because when they share the book as a manual, it is something that people can take and implement, and there are guiding steps into that implementation. Because if you go to the back of the book, you will notice that there's like a not a tutorial, yeah, like a curriculum that you could follow when you're actually trying to go about this in your school, by organizing workshops, whereby you've got it's separated in different sessions, and what you should do in each session, and the outcomes of that session, and how you can actually test if you've achieved those required outcomes or not. And then the second last aspect was when Jansen, in great detail, spoke about the social and material advantages of history. And this, for me, resonated a lot. Uh, Not that he was speaking about it as the only aspect that we should look at. As I've said, there were schools who were coming from dire situations that still perform quite well. Therefore, that means that excellence and performance in schools is not only determined by that one factor of having historical, social, or materialistic advantage. There are other things. And what I found from the book is Jansen and Molly tried to draw us into the importance of having the right values and skills in order for a schooling ecosystem to go forward. What I'm trying to say is that it is beyond a school having enough money to finance its endeavors. It has to do more with the skills and the values that the school leader specifically wants to establish in the teachers, and thereafter into the learners who come to be part of that schooling system. And then one aspect, as I wrap it up, so that I tell people, I don't even remember where I got this book, is the aspect of parental involvement. And I think this also resonates with me as a young educator as well, especially who's been exposed to teaching in township schools as well for some time. It's parental involvement in schooling, in a child's schooling career, is very, very important. I cannot stress this enough. Parents should be involved in their children's education. But now I've also realized that parents don't know how to be involved. And I think that is one thing that I will try and cover in these videos and my social media platforms, to say, how do I as a parent show interest in my child's education? What is it that I can do to show that I want to be involved in what they're doing at school? I want to work hand in hand with their educators. So if this excited you, please go get the book. How to Fix Essex Schools, Lessons from Schools at Work, by Professor Jansen and Molly Blank. Thank you.